Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's dive right into today's story. This one's about a young homeowner who turned a salty neighbor's petty antics into the ultimate win. Imagine buying your first house only to find out your next-door neighbor isn't thrilled. Why? He wanted to buy your house, tear it down, and park some RVs there. Yeah, talk about awkward vibes. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. The tale of a persistent neighbor and a circular saw. The backstory. Here in Sweden, there's a huge difference in house prices between popular areas and major cities compared to the countryside. This meant that I was able to buy a small fixer-upper house at the age of 23, 4 years ago, on a very average income. There was only me and one other bidder involved, and I eventually won the bidding at a reasonable price. The house is located a bit outside town with only one other house next to it, as well as an empty lot. Shortly after moving in, an older guy came knocking on my door. He told me he was the other bidder and the owner of the empty property, and he only wanted my house in order to tear it down and make more space for his friends' RVs. He finished by essentially saying, "Enjoy your pile of junk." Since then, he spent most of the summers in a lawn chair next to his RV on the empty property with a clear view up my driveway and shooting me dirty looks every time I walked or drove by. Now, as I said, the house is a project, and I've made many improvements over the years as time and money is allowed. There's always something that needs doing on the house, and I'm also the designated mechanic for friends and family. There's usually a car or two getting repaired in my garage. This means lots of noisy tools. I've made sure to always start some kind of project when I see him sit down in his chair. This has gone on for a few summers now. He gives me dirty looks, I make noise, only on reasonable hours though. I don't do anything he can reasonably complain about. Today I continued on my bedroom remodeling, and it seems my circular saw finally broke him. He turned his RV around and put the chair in the opposite direction, where there's an actual view as compared to my driveway. I see this as a total victory. Ha! Guy was trying to intimidate you into leaving. It's on like Donkey Kong. I think you might need a classic two-stroke motorcycle to tune by ear for hours and hours. Possibly consider investing in air-powered tools if you're still using manual ones. Brrrp. Him watching you so intently reminds me of the joke, "I enjoy hard work. I can watch it all day." I guess he got tired and changed the channel. And our second story. The Great Post-Hole Debacle of 1997. This happened back when the Earth was young and MTV still played music videos in the ancient age known as 1997. I was 13 and spending yet another weekend helping my dad with yard work and home improvement projects. Not complaining, I learned a lot about home repair, and rather than get a crappy teen job in retail, my dad paid me to assist him up until I left for college. Now, just because I didn't hate it doesn't mean I was a little 13-year-old crap, however. On this day, we were putting up a trellis in the garden for plants to grow on. Simple job, sink 2 posts, cement them in place, and fit the trellis between them. My dad gave me a post hole digger, which, if you're not familiar with, looks like someone glued chopsticks to a pistachio shell so you could open and close it with a hinge. He showed me the spot for the first post and said, "Dig it as deep as you can." So I went and made a foot-deep hole, thinking that was enough to sink the 6-foot post we had. He comes back and tells me not to be lazy and dig deeper. In fact, keep digging until I tell you it's deep enough. I knew he'd be back from the garage in about half an hour, so I went to town on this hole. I didn't stop for a break and just kept digging until the post hole digger fit in the hole completely and I couldn't open it to lift dirt out. At that point, I taped a spade to a branch and made the hole even deeper. When he came back, he said something along the lines of, "Let's see if you did it properly this time." And he drops the 6-foot post into the hole where it promptly disappears. There was a momentary look of shock on his face, then he started laughing, like bent over, can't catch your breath laughing. To this day, I've never seen the man laugh as hard as that. When he was done, he told me that I guess I did what he told me, but now I'd have to figure out how to fish the post out of the hole. Luckily, it was only a foot or so below the surface, and we got it out easily enough. To this day, my dad still tells this story as a warning about giving vague instructions. Absolutely love this. Thank you for sharing. A lot of these stories can get heavy. The lightheartedness in this really made my day. Your dad sounds great. Not only to pay you for the work you helped with, but to laugh when he saw that hole so deep the post disappeared. Happy you and your dad still bond and get mileage out of this story. It was really funny. And our next story. Thriving isn't just revenge, it's my new lifestyle. Roughly 1.5 years ago, I had a fallout with a friend. I'll spare you the details, but we gradually did not get along anymore. I was sad, but I also felt relief that the constant arguments and stress I had dealing with her ended. Up until she started bad-mouthing my other friends because they didn't take her side, which started to make me resentful. It came with quite a surprise I only realized much later. I always struggled with my weight to the point that I started getting sore joints and back, especially while going to concerts or anything else that required me to stand around for a while. It troubled me that not even physical pain was enough of a motivator. The thing just is, the friend I had to cut ties with always had a very mean girl attitude with other women who were slimmer than her, commented about people's food choices behind their backs if they tried to make better choices. She always projected her insecurity so hard onto them, going as far as calling them traumatized just because they managed to keep thin. And you know, it's so weird when I realized it, but do you know this? The best revenge is to thrive. Pretty much this and a tickling sense of super giga pettiness finally gave me the motivation to tackle my goal. I'm 40 pounds down, no sore back, knees, or ankles in months. I finally found the kinds of sport I feel I can do and have fun doing, so as I get older, trying my best to keep healthy for as long as possible. I feel bomb dwelling in the petty thought that it would make her super pissed to see how I'm doing. Motivation's motivation. It might have started out petty AF, but in the doing, you've gotten healthier and, in my opinion, more importantly, you've found physical activities that you enjoy doing. I would only add that it's probably healthier now to just leave that pettiness behind and move on from even thinking about former friend as being at all connected to the better life choices. And our last story. Crossing the line. When my neighbor refused to respect my property. I own a 0.42 acre lot in Georgia. Recently, I hired a surveyor to map out my property because the lot always seemed unusually narrow. The results were shocking. My neighbor's house was built 21.4 feet into my property. My parents originally purchased this lot in 2005 and transferred it to me in 2007. The neighbor's house was built in 2003, 2 years before the purchase. Unfortunately, my parents didn't commission a survey when they bought the lot, so the encroachment went unnoticed for years. Meanwhile, I've been paying HOA fees and property taxes for a piece of land that's partially unusable thanks to this encroachment. I tried to handle this the neighborly way at first, but that backfired quickly. When I approached the neighbor, I explained the situation calmly. Hey, I had a survey done on my property and it looks like part of your house was built over the property line. His response? A dismissive snort. That's ridiculous. I've lived here for 18 years and no one's ever said anything. I tried to be reasonable. I'm not blaming you, but the survey's pretty clear. I was hoping we could figure something out, maybe with a lawyer or mediator. That's when he flipped. Figure what out? My house isn't going anywhere. You think I'm going to tear it down just because some piece of paper says so? Get out of here with that nonsense. I was stunned. Look, I don't want to escalate this, but this is my property and your property, my property, whatever, he cut me off. Good luck doing anything about it. Go waste your money on lawyers for all I care. That's when I realized I wasn't going to get anywhere without legal help. I hired an attorney and explained the situation. After reviewing the case, my lawyer confirmed that the neighbor had no adverse possession claim because the house was built less than 20 years ago, and they never formally disputed the property line. That was a relief, but the situation was still complicated. The attorney filed an encroachment claim on my behalf. We presented the surveyor's findings as evidence and requested either financial compensation or the removal of the encroaching section of their house. Unsurprisingly, the neighbor continued to act like a jerk. When the legal notice was delivered, he stormed over to my property, red-faced and shouting, "Are you serious with this?" he bellowed, waving the papers in the air. "You're really trying to ruin my life over a few feet of dirt?" "It's not just a few feet," I replied, keeping my tone even. "Your house is 21 feet onto my property. I've been paying taxes on that land for nearly 2 decades. "Yeah, and what are you gonna do about it, huh? Tear down my house? You think any judge is gonna let you do that?" He crossed his arms, glaring at me. I stood firm. "That's for the courts to decide. But you're not entitled to my property just because you've been ignoring the boundary lines." He muttered something under his breath and stomped away, but not before shouting over his shoulder, "You'll regret this." After months of legal back and forth, the court finally ruled in my favor. The neighbor had no legal claim to the land, and the encroachment was clear. The judge gave him 2 options: remove the encroaching portion of his house, which included part of his garage and a small addition, or purchase the portion of my land his house occupied at a fair market price, along with paying damages for the years I couldn't use my own property. Predictably, the neighbor didn't take the ruling well. He tried to appeal but failed. Eventually, he begrudgingly agreed to the second option, but not without throwing a final tantrum. "You're just money hungry, aren't you?" he sneered when we crossed paths one day. "You probably planned this the whole time." I laughed. "Planned it? I didn't even know about the encroachment until a few months ago. You could have avoided all this by being reasonable." He didn't reply, just stormed back into his house. In the end, he paid a hefty sum to buy the encroached portion of my land, and the damages covered all my legal fees and more. Well done for standing your ground. Your neighbor's a weirdo. It's wild that he thought his 18 years of ignorance could somehow erase your property rights. That courtroom win must have felt amazing. Watching someone who's been nothing but dismissive and hostile suddenly face the consequences of their actions is satisfying. If your neighbor had just been willing to talk things through like an adult, this could have been resolved without all the drama. But hey, some people only learn the hard way. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.